Hey guys, review today on the Condor Kephart knife. Great little knife, $35 price range. Real quick, the numbers: 4.5 inch blade, 3 millimeters thick, 1075 high carbon steel, hardwood handles, leather sheath, all that. It's about 9 inches overall. Weight, you're talking, around half a pound. Terrific little knife for the money. We're going to do a little talking about it, and we're going to do a little demonstration on it. So we'll show you the sheath up close. It is riveted in 2 spots and sewn with a nice belt loop on it. Sturdy leather, very nice. It's not the best sheath on the market, but Condor gives you pretty good sheath for the money when you buy their knife, so not too shabby. Okay, let's get that out of the way. A little close-up of the knife itself. As you can see, full tank construction, 3 millimeters thick, but of course it does taper down near the end. Looks like a hardwood handle with probably brass pins in it. Has a weird, I think it's described as a blued finish. Very interesting looking, if you ask me. It's got kind of a weird weathered look to it. It says El Salvador on one side, which is where these guys are made, and Condor on the other, and that is, I believe, laser etched. I don't think it's actually engraved. Out of the box, medium sharp. Definitely needed a little work. Took this on a backpacking trip this weekend and put it through its paces, and just wanted to share the results and do a little demo on this bad boy. So first of all, since I've gotten home, I've definitely resharpened. So I think the best way to represent how sharp it is by a thin piece of newsprint, which is usually some of the toughest stuff to cut. Make sure I'm on frame. Whoops. And it does, as you can see, when you hit it right, it is sharp enough to cut newsprint, which is awesome. That's always a great indicator of how sharp a knife is if it can cut that really thin paper. So, of course, this is sold and designed as a bushcraft style knife, something for carving. You could probably do a little light batoning with it, cleaning game, etc. It does have a unfinished 90-degree spine for striking ferro rods. It's got a little bit of a finger choil here for protection, which is good. It helps you really lock it in good and keep you from sliding up on the blade. Alright, so let's go. I got a couple pieces of wood from the usual pile, which if you watch knife review, you've seen these before. This one here is a piece of oak, which we're just going to give it a couple, just to kind of show you this. And this is dry, by the way, it's not green. And it does a pretty good job at feathering the wood. Mind you, I'm doing this behind a camera, so we're not perfect technique here. But as you can see, feathers wood excellently, and that's a harder oak. And that's just me doing this behind a camera, guys. Not even, hardcore. This is an actual piece of a tree from my backyard. I took down a while ago. I keep these pieces around mostly for projects and stuff like that. This is a softer wood. You can actually, leave thumbprints in it. This is really dry. This has been around for about a year or so. And this one, a little more effort. It's really dry, That's the great part. Is I love watching these videos where guys do feather sticks on green wood, thinking like, oh wow, this is, look how good this feather stick. Well, of course the feather's good. It's green wood, Green wood's generally really, really soft and easy to cut. This stuff is, as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit with it because it is very dry. This has been, in my garage, trying to get all parts of the blade just to kind of give you an idea as to the wear characteristics. Make sure I'm in frame here, but you can see it's a little more work than that oak, but like I said, this really dry wood. It's still, you know, it's not the hardest for a soft wood, but it's really super hard. Once again though, you get some pretty fine curls. Now if you were sitting down and doing this properly and not sitting behind a camera, you'd have much better luck. Last, this is a piece of buckthorn. Very, very hard, dense wood. You can kind of hear it. Yeah, big difference in the density of this wood. This is very hard. This is very dry as well. This has been in my garage for probably about a year. And it's one of the harder woods I found to carve and feather stick with. So I find it to be an excellent test of, make sure I'm on frame again. I find it to be an excellent test for a new knife to see how it performs. And it does, it goes through this really well. It just takes those. See, this buckthorn doesn't feather like a lot of woods. You'll get these thicker curls out of it. But it you can see if you're kind of doing kind of a quick shaving. It performs pretty well. So battery died on me, of course. Luckily it was right when I was kind of transitioning. So there you go. You can see a little bit of kind of feather sticking with it. We're gonna go back and go back to this newsprint and see if we still held that edge. And we did. Granted, that was pretty light feather sticking, so, you know, whoops. That's some pretty light feather sticking, so I didn't expect it to dull the edge that quickly, but just wanted to show you that it's not complete junk here, of course. Alright, so let's talk about my experiences with this bad boy. So I got this probably a month, maybe 2 months ago, and been just using it around the homestead, in the garden, in the backyard. I'm in a never-ending battle with the brush behind my place, and I tend to use it a lot in the garden and just kind of cutting some quick branches, things like that. Normal light use. And this last weekend here I did take it backpacking for his first backpacking trip, and was pleasantly surprised. It did pretty well. You know, it is 1075 steel, so it's not going to hold an edge as good as 1095, and it definitely showed. Throughout the trip I did sharpen it once. Granted, I didn't, you know, use the hell out of it. It's a small kind of knife, and, you know, I don't spend my entire time in the woods carving and doing other things. But, you know, so I did sharpen it once, which, you know, 1095 sometimes I can get away with without sharpening, but I did have to kind of sharpen it up, and it wasn't much. It was pretty much just hit it on a stone, couple of licks, and then a couple of minutes on a strop, and it was back to better than new, to be honest. So even then, you know, I found, you know, it's okay. This is a pretty good knife for the money. For 36 bucks, there's not a ton of competition for decent carbon steel bushcraft knives, and this one does pretty well. It's right there in the pack, right in the, you know, maybe even towards the top of the pack. I would love it if this were in 1090 or 1095 steel, but, you know, the 1075 is almost as good. It gives you a little less chance of chipping the edge. Comfort-wise, I found it to be very comfortable. No problem with hot spots or anything in my hand. I did do some light batoning with it just to kind of test that out. But you know what, guys? A full flat grind knife like this, that's this thin, like 3 millimeters, it's not the best baton on earth, to be honest with you. Even though you're only doing small stuff, you know, you really need something a little bit thicker to have an effective baton. it's just plain and simple. It's not the knife's fault, it's physics. But yeah, if you need to get through some small, probably 2-inch, 2.5-inch branches, this will baton through, no problem. You're not going to have as good of a result as if you have a thicker knife. Fit and finish, not perfect. Definitely the finish looks a little like uneven and smeared. I don't know if that's the intention or not. The edges are nice and smooth, nothing sticking out there. A little bit, the edge when it initially came was a little tiny bit like dull in some spots, sharp in the other. It was kind of uneven as to how sharp it was. Easily fixed, no big deal at all. So fit and finish, pretty decent for the price. I mean, $35, you can't expect, the world of it, but overall, aside from just the finish kind of looking like a little, I don't know, is that supposed to look like that? It's that kind of weird, like I said, that bluing effect. But I don't care. It's actually pretty tough. It didn't come off at all during the trip. It didn't come off at all with batoning. We'll try and zoom in here and see if you can see. All you can see is a couple little light spots where the batoning lightened it up a little bit. But nothing major, nothing peeling, flaking, anything like that. So I think it'll be a pretty decent finish for the long term. Decent kind of drop point, almost a spear point design. Overall, great little carving knife, great little field knife. No problems with it whatsoever. It sharpens up really easy. This is a knife if you get, and every time you go on a trip, if you just kind of hit it up with a strop, this is a knife that will always stay sharp. It's you get those good carbon steel knives, and they need very little maintenance. Just bring them in once in a blue moon, hit them up on a sharpening stone lightly, and then strop them, and they usually come back to just an absolute razor edge. It's the 1075 steel is pretty decent. It's a good balance between edge retention and the steel being soft enough where it doesn't chip under high stress, which I do like. The design, this is an old design, based off of Condor Kephart's design, which is probably well over 100 years old. Sorry, I'm not up on my history of Kephart. I'm a Nesmith guy. So it's a classic design, good in the hand, good length, good size, good ergonomics, blade steel's decent. Condor does have a reputation for having spotty quality control, and that's kind of evident in the knives I own of theirs. Some of them have turned out to be really awesome. Others have turned out to be meh and had some, questionable heat treat stuff and some fit and finish issues. But for the most part, the Condor stuff is very good user grade, so you're not going wrong. At $35, you're definitely not getting ripped off. Even if you get one that's kind of meh with the heat treat, they're still better than 90% of the stuff on the market in that $35 price range. So there it is, guys. Overall, decent little product. Really enjoy it. I definitely see this as being kind of a go-to knife in the future for trips. It's small and handy. It's just that right size, and the only thing that could really be better about it if it was a kind of a thicker Scandi grind, but Condor made that. It's it's the bush lore. So I might get one of those eventually and review that too, just to kind of do a little comparison shopping. But if you do like the full flat grinds, this is definitely a knife for you.